Hi everyone! Today we'll be talking about one of my favorite artists, as you may be able to tell by the shirt. We're talking Elliott Smith. Now I've had the pleasure of listening to his discography all week to come up with the cream of the crop. I'm calling this, undeniably, the top 10 best Elliott Smith songs. And just to stir things up, I'll have my pick for an overrated song at the end. But in the meantime, let's get to the top 10. Number 10, we have Son of Sam from Figure 8. Figure 8 would be the last studio album released in Smith's lifetime. He took the title from a Schoolhouse Rock song and would even cover the Saturday morning cartoon ditty in an appropriately lovely, haunted take that didn't make the final track listing. As his cover of the Beatles' Because could attest, he could record well-known songs and really excel in putting his stamp on them. Regarding the album's title, he would say he liked the idea of a self-contained, endless pursuit of perfection, and that perfection isn't very artful. So the point was to not stop or arrive anywhere, it's just to make this thing as beautiful as they can. Son of Sam kicks off the album with jaunty, upbeat piano, and some of Elliott's most impressionistic lyrics, with references to the Hindu deity Shiva and the titular serial killer. He would play every single instrument on the recording, a one-man band, also backing himself on the harmonies too. Despite it being a solo affair, its arrangement is full of energy and a weird sense of optimism despite the narrator comparing himself to David Berkowitz. Son of Sam showed that under his sad sack veneer, Elliott Smith was an incredibly talented pop craftsman. At number 9, we have Angelus from Either Or. Born Stephen Paul Smith in Omaha, Nebraska, he would grow up in Texas with his mother and stepfather before leaving to live with his father in Portland, Oregon during his teens. He would attend college in Amherst, Massachusetts, but would return to Portland, which would be his main home base and where his band Heat Miser and eventually his solo career would spring forth from. After signing to the major label DreamWorks, he would later move to Los Angeles, and his preoccupation with the famed City of Gold could be heard on Angelus, recorded prior to his relocation. The arrangement is simply Elliott's exquisite finger-picked acoustic, his multi-tracked, hushed vocals, and light atmospheric keyboard. He is weary of the town's clarion call. Picking up the ticket shows there's money to be made. Go on, lose the gamble, that's the history of the trade. Though in the end, he is resigned that his journey will lead him there. So glad to meet you, Angelus. The song is an apprehensive tribute to a town full of dreams and snake oil salesmen. Its ethereal ambiance shines with a quiet brilliance. At number 8, we have The White Lady Loves You More from the album titled Elliott Smith. Elliott's solo career started off humbly. He had borrowed a friend's 4-track and recorded 9 songs of sparse, lo-fi folk with minimal equipment. It was quite a contrast to the loud guitar punk of his regionally successful main band, Heat Miser. His girlfriend at the time encouraged him to send the tape over to Cavity Search Records. He thought at best he might get a 7-inch record released out of it, but was surprised when the label was excited to release the whole collection. His muted, wistful sound was a welcome change to the alternative grunge scene, and he would sign to Kill Rock Stars for his second solo album. The production value improved slightly, but it's still bare, homespun, minimalist folk. The White Lady Loves You More is a short, precious ballad about a strung-out junkie personifying his fix as if it were a benevolent angel. Elliott would claim that references to drug use were merely metaphorical, but its dim-lit, well-detailed lyrics hint at something deeper. Whether Smith was speaking from his own experience or one of someone close to him, it's clear that his life had been impacted by the White Lady. Its tone isn't quite as pitch dark as the rest of the self-titled album, thanks to its tender melody. It's like a lullaby to an addict, nodding off and finally at peace after a late-night score, both soothing and eerie. At number 7, we have Baby Britain from EXO. Following the surprise success of Miss Misery and the critically heralded album Either Or, the big labels came calling, and he would sign with DreamWorks Records. He then went back to work with the same producers as his previous LP, Rob Schnapf and Tom Rothrock. But armed with more financial resources, he also aimed to broaden and beef up his introspective troubadour sound. EXO would take Smith's bare-bone arrangements and reinvent them into stunning Technicolor spectacles, from lo-fi to high definition. He would lose some fans for the change and for seemingly selling out from his indie roots, but the vibrant production suited his Beatles and Beach Boys indebted compositions. On first listen, Baby Britain is far removed from his bedroom confessionals. Its piano is downright perky, and its rhythm swings with a steady Ringo stomp. As happy as it sounds, Smith has some vicious turns of phrase. For someone half as smart, you'd be a work of art. That telegraphs the darkness under the peppy melody. Is he talking about himself? Someone that fights problems with bigger problems? It's unclear, but what is obvious is Baby Britain has a pleasant bop, borrowed from the 60s British invasion, and is Elliott at his most humble. At number 6, we have Say Yes from Either Or. Elliott Smith spent a lot of his time with a guitar in his hands, not necessarily always seriously songwriting. He liked to play guitar while being distracted, not looking at what he was doing. He said as a child, he liked songs with lots of chord changes. So instead of coming up with riffs, he would constantly be fiddling around with unique, melodic phrasing. This would be the defining quality of his songwriting, with the chords almost constantly in motion. There were implied inventive melodies that would reveal themselves. Speaking of distraction, Elliott claims Say Yes was written in 5 minutes during an episode of Xena, Warrior Princess, with the sound turned off. What a surreal scene to imagine. Say Yes is Smith's most hopeful, optimistic song, and ends his emotional, existential album Either Or on an incredibly positive note. It's an unabashed love song. I'm in love with the world through the eyes of a girl still around the morning after. It starts with him and mono, vocal and guitar, before blossoming into stereo, adding understated second guitar flourishes and sublime multi-layered harmonies. The lyrics and feel are like just waking up and coming to your senses, realizing that all you've been searching for was closer than you realized. Say Yes is the closest Elliott Smith came to expressing unadulterated bliss, that maybe he could find some inner resolve with a little help and a little love. At number 5, we have Pretty Ugly Before, off of From a Basement on a Hill. Even with his success, Elliott would battle depression and substance abuse. He would attempt rehab a few times, but it wouldn't work for him. He had previously attempted suicide by jumping off a cliff. He survived, but close confidants would say the subject was never far from his mind. His music would often put his sadness and pain right out in the open. When he died at 34 after apparently stabbing himself, it was tragic, but somehow it seemed inevitable. At the time of his death, Elliott had over 50 songs recorded in various states of completion. He had mixed 9 of them. Former producer Rob Schnapf and Smith's ex-girlfriend, Johanna Bohm, were given the unenviable job of sorting through the clutter left behind to unearth an album. Many people have strong opinions on the final album, From a Basement on a Hill, from the track inclusion to mixing decisions. But it's still an incredible collection of stellar songs that reaffirm his songwriting genius. Pretty Ugly Before is power pop with an alt-country swing. The backup harmonies from Sam Coombs of the band Quasi offer a sweet counter melody after the bridge. It's not exactly happy, but its mid-tempo jangle and shiny piano give it a sunny warmth. His lyrics are broad and universal. We've all felt ugly before, physically or morally, but the song's momentum embraces the ambiguity. His final posthumous record is filled with fantastic tunes. Pretty Ugly Before is a standout. At number 4, we have Miss Misery from the soundtrack to Good Will Hunting. Either Or was a beloved album instantly, and it caught the attention of filmmaker Gus Van Sant, who asked Elliott if he would contribute to his forthcoming motion picture, Good Will Hunting. This would shine light on Elliott in a literal way. 3 songs from the album were included, as well as the new original for the soundtrack, Miss Misery. This scrappy indie-ish film was a huge success, and Miss Misery got a surprise nomination for an Academy Award for Best Song. For the Oscars, the show producers told Elliott that the song would be played during the presentation with or without him, so he reluctantly agreed to perform. He played alone on stage in a white suit he was quite fond of, and played the somber, beautiful ballad. The broadcast orchestra back up the dramatic swings in the melody. It truly sounds cinematic. He would call it a surreal experience, being starstruck by Jack Nicholson and singing for an indifferent room of Hollywood elites. Miss Misery is a gently rocking, bittersweet slice of classic 60s pop. Its delicate harmonies decorate the troubled troubadour spinning a tale of drinking and pity. Do you miss me? Miss Misery, like you say you do. The precarious melody is lovely. It ultimately lost to Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On. Titanic fever was in full swing. Still, this was huge exposure for the underground hero, and Miss Misery is one of his best succinct, emotionally complex pop songs. At number 3, we have Happiness from Figure 8. Elliott Smith was already a devout follower of Lennon-McCartney, and on Figure 8, given the chance, he took it one step further, recording at historic Abbey Road Studios in London. It was truly Beatlesque in sound and ambition. It's often regarded as his weakest work, a little shaggy at 52 minutes, his longest record, but every album of his had plenty of highlights. Happiness, as its title suggests, is as joyous as Smith could be, truly longing for some lasting satisfaction. What I used to be will pass away, and then you'll see that all I want now is happiness for you and me. It's the ending mantra. Like across the universe, it repeats a phrase to try to attain some calming peace. Assisting on backup vocals is the incredible musician and producer John Bryan. He adds saccharine touches. On the record, it's up-tempo white soul, all of the band, until a long outro with marching drum, droning organ, and the earnest refrain. There's a clip of him playing Happiness on John Bryan's talk show pilot. Bryan joins with Elliott playing acoustic, adding floating, chiming xylophone. Its blissed out melodic coda aims for zen. It's Elliott Smith at his most open-hearted. For all his emo credentials, he was an honest, strong soul trying to bring some warmth into this world. At number 2, we have Between the Bars from Either Or. It's probably his most well-known song, a short, stunning ballad, widely covered by artists ranging from Madonna to Biba Doobie. It even showed up on an episode of Rick and Morty. Between the Bars was also part of the Good Will Hunting soundtrack, in a truncated version, complete with a full-fledged orchestra extending its delicate melody, with a tender, silver screen string section courtesy of composer Danny Elfman. The song is beautifully conflicted. It's the seductive call of alcohol. Drink up with me now, forget all about the pressure of days. It's a comforting, narcotic love story with a gentle, rich melody. The drunk lovers share a kiss, and then each yearn for the fantasy that this pleasant numbness can last. Elliott longs for control. Keep you apart, deep in my heart, separate from the rest, 'cause I like you the best. Like everyone, he wants stability, but his vice is slowly poisoning him and his relationship. Its sparse arrangement makes the words and atmosphere more intimate. His soft, whispered lead draws you in, and the acoustic guitar is a mellow strum. A second one later appears to add modest touches. It's really Elliott's magnetic vocals and measured, meaningful words that turn between the bars into a truly extraordinary, timeless ballad. At number 1, we have Waltz Number 2, XO, from XO. As the first single off his major label debut, it announced Elliott's ambition as more than just a bedroom folk auteur. He was aiming for grand Baroque pop. Over a 3/4 time swing and a staccato saloon piano, Elliott spins a yarn, splitting the difference between autobiographical and abstract. He recalls a fight between a couple at a karaoke bar, choosing songs as a way to send messages to the other. Elliott had a volatile relationship with his stepfather, and these memories, whether fabricated or not in the lyrics, still linger and haunt him. Tell Mr. Man with impossible plans to leave me alone. His terse responses about his upbringing implied his stepfather was controlling perfectionist. He dreams of the place where I make no mistakes, in the place that I have what it takes. He would escape from this dysfunctional home, going to live with his father, but he doesn't blame his mother for loving Mr. Man. He sings, XO, Mom, sending her hugs and kisses before saying goodbye with a perfect poetic couplet. I'm never gonna know you now, but I'm gonna love you anyhow. It would be a phrase repeated about Elliott himself following his tragic death. Waltz Number 2 uses Elliott's inventive intuition in crafting clever chord changes with opaque yet engaging lyrics to make a rolling, melancholic masterpiece. It's melodic pop crystallized, shining like a diamond. It's his very best. And now, I'll share 2 more songs that almost made the list. The first is A Distorted Reality Is Now a Necessity to Be Free, off of From a Basement on a Hill. It's another White Album Pop Smith gem, complete with a George Harrison guitar solo. On the song, Elliott describes an addict trying to stay sober, but having trouble with the indifferent, frustrating world around him. It's his most overtly political song, but he keeps its message personal. Shine on me, baby, 'cause it's raining in my heart. The other pick is Independence Day from XO. On nearly all of XO, Elliott plays all of the instruments himself. This song, however, is built on a shuffling drum loop. Its upbeat swing and lovely backup harmonies radiate a cautious optimism to the tune, and he has one of his best succinct couplets. Everybody knows you only live a day, but it's brilliant anyway. It's emotionally and melodically complicated, yet still light on its feet. It definitely deserves mention among his best. Finally, let's talk about my pick for the most overrated song by Elliott Smith. That would be Needle in the Hay. Now obviously being overrated is all relative to his level of notoriety in general, and by no means am I saying it's a bad song. However, it remains one of his most popular tracks, and it's not even the best song on his self-titled album. This is no doubt in part due to its place in the Royal Tenenbaums. Wes Anderson uses it to great effect in Luke Wilson's suicide scene, and it was the director's true breakthrough film. I'm sure it turned many people onto Elliott Smith. Still, one guy choosing it for tone hardly makes it his best song, even if it has more YouTube views than most of my top 10. For a songwriter who wrote many complex progressions, the song is fairly simple. It drones back and forth, reminiscent more of the Velvet Underground than his more inventive harmonic compositions. The chorus is simple, repeating the title over and over. Maybe the repetition is supposed to emulate the stress of jonesing for a fix, but it doesn't make it as catchy and replayable as other lesser-known songs from Elliott. To me, Needle in the Hay is a little overrated. As you're still watching, I wanted to feature a deep cut as well, and for that, I'm shining a light on A Living Will, a B-side to Son of Sam. It's a bright power pop rocker that somehow got cut from Figure 8. It's an energetic burst of Elephant Six style fuzzy retro rock. It's very guitar forward, and Elliott shines with clean, shimmering strums and a gliding, tasteful solo. He was an incredible guitarist, but not a show-off. He was always conscientious of what services the song. A Living Will is an underrated treasure buried among his B-sides. You should definitely check it out. So there you have it. That was undeniably the top 10 best Elliott Smith songs. So, how wrong was I? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your top 3? Do you think Needle in the Hay is his best song? Let me know. And if there's any artist you'd like to see me rank, let me know in the comments below. Hope you stick around, and thank you for watching. At number 9, we have Oh, yeah.
Number 9? We skipped a whole number even though we just started.
Oh yeah. I see 8 and then I see 10 and somehow I say 9. Appropriately, but would we return, at number 9. Recorded. Nope. Recorded. But would return. History of the trade. Though in the end, I feel like I was still singing it. Though in the end, we have the no. We're given the unenviable, devout.
Yeah, satisfaction.
But
Satisfaction?
more than just a bedroom folk auteur.
You're really struggling with your own words that you wrote.
What?
More than just a bedroom folk auteur.
That's how you say it, right? Auteur?
Yes, it's auteur.
He would escape from this He would escape from this
Bird among his black B-sides.
Okay, I don't know.
Bird.
As soon as I said it, I'm like,
like that's just a one syllable. Bird.